Several weeks after the first albatross hatchlings emerged, the oldest birds are being fed nutrient-rich meals of squid and other large solid items. It's hard to assess the success rate at this stage, but we've not had too many severe winter sandstorms on the beach or high surf events that have caused flooding. We won't know how successful this breeding cohort is until we conduct our island-wide fledgling count later this year. Nestlings are just starting to wander very short distances from their nest bowl in order to seek shade. Another common thermoregulation technique is raising their feet off the ground, allowing heat to dissipate from their feet. Parents returning from sea are immediately met by their begging young as the nestling relies on its parents for every meal. We've had several short-tailed albatross visit this winter, at least 5 unique individuals based on boundary sites and the age class of the non-banded birds. None of the individuals have been observed courting each other, however, they have at times been in close proximity to where another has visited. Bone-and petrels currently incubate their eggs, while the first laid eggs are hatching. It's hard to gauge exactly how many bone-and petrels breed on Kure, but our dusk estimates have reached around 30 to 35,000 individuals. But burrows seem to be countless through the Central Plains and Southwest Quads. Our team has started wearing burrow shoes in these open areas, which are designed to prevent burrow collapse and minimize disturbance. Christmas shearwaters have just begun to return to Hōlanikū, the first bird being seen on the 23rd of February. Hōlanikū has a robust Christmas shearwater population with long-time monitoring efforts in place. Recently, we've recited some notable banded birds, and we'll share more information about them in a later post. In 2025, our team observed around 80 Christmas shearwater nests, and this year we'll continue to monitor their breeding. Wedge-tailed shearwaters have also started to return, with our first birds arriving earlier this week. Tristram storm petrel eggs are mostly hatched by this point. This species has greatly benefited from the habitat restoration efforts on Hōlanikū. Most notably, the eradication of Polynesian rats in the 1990s allowed these birds to breed without the threat of introduced predators. Additionally, the decimation of the Verbicina monoculture has provided the storm petrels with open real estate in the Central Plains. An initial burrow occupancy survey has revealed that the Tristram storm petrel colony is at least 4.5 acres in size. We'll be conducting further surveys in the coming weeks to make a proper population estimate. Red-tailed tropic birds have begun nesting over the last month or so, and we're already seeing the first chicks. Tropic birds requiring shelter from the sun select nest sites in alpaca or under heliotrope trees, being concealed from above. Due to their labored maneuverability and somewhat awkward land-based locomotion, many birds nest in and around the dunes, providing quick access to the beach for a clean takeoff. We're just now entering peak egg-laying season for great frigate birds. The loud bill clacks, gular warbles, and gackering of courtship display are still heard, but many birds have taken to their nests. The north side of the island boasts a large number of great frigate birds in both low stands of Naupauga and in beach heliotrope trees. Nesting nearby to the great frigate birds are red-footed booby. There seems to be no observed hierarchy between great frigate birds and red-footed booby, both species being defensive of their territory. The eponymous ah vocalization is dominant in the cacophony of birds on Hōlanikū. Red-footed booby nesting progresses on a similar timeline to great frigate birds, as the boobies are also currently incubating. Brown booby nesting is also progressing, with many adults nest building, while others have laid and are incubating their 2-egg clutch. Most of our brown boobies are nesting up north, but the first eggs have also been observed in our southern monitoring plots. We're currently monitoring 11 active brown booby nests, but it is still quite early in their breeding season. There's at least one pair of Coco's booby that has been observed nest building. Another pair has been potentially observed around a dead heliotrope snag at North Point. We're hopeful that we'll see these birds lay eggs soon. Masked booby nests are further along in their breeding season than most other birds on Kure. We're following about 45 nests thus far and are still seeing the latest nests being made, while the earlier laid eggs have hatched. Masked boobies will only spend 5 to 6 hours at sea feeding, returning to their incubating mates with loud calls announcing their return. A lone Nazca booby has been regularly observed on Hōlanikū. While there have been some attempts to interact with masked boobies, this bird has not been observed engaging in courtship displays or copulation. The Nazca booby movement into Papahanaumokuakea is interesting to say the least. I'd say it's likely that more hybrid pairs will arise in the next few years, and it won't be long before a pair of Nazcas nest in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands. Brown noddies have only been observed in small numbers at this time of year, while black noddies have a less regimented breeding season than other seabirds on Hōlanikū. Egg laying has occurred, while other birds are content just locking down their nest locations for when they decide to lay. Egg laying will most likely continue through June. White terns also have a less regimented breeding season, with many birds incubating eggs in the crooks of branches, while other pairs are just now starting to form. Some birds laid their eggs a month or so ago and are tending to their newly hatched chick. Sooty terns have recently returned in abundant numbers. Over the past few weeks, the daytime kettle has increased dramatically, with some birds starting to land and establish colony locations as of earlier this week. Grayback terns returned to Hōlanikū at the tail end of January, and since then they've dispersed across the island in small colonies of about 10 to 25 birds. Grayback terns will also make small depressions in the ground for their egg, but they typically choose more vegetated areas than their close taxonomic relative sooty terns. In 2025, Hōlanikū had 155 grayback tern nests, so we'll continue to monitor their breeding this year and document any changes. Our Laysan ducks have not been observed on eggs yet this year. However, it's likely we'll see broods of ducklings without ever finding a nest, as these birds will nest in well-hidden locations in the cover of Naupaka. We have observed copulation in addition to drake hen pairs foraging together, so it shouldn't be long before we see fluffy young milling about and experiencing their first steps on Hōlanikū.